my goal was always to go back home. So if I could go back home and work,
Yeah.
yes, and be of a service. Because the other thing is like just supporting like our economy, but also when you go back home, you have a community that also kind of like looks up to you and just like knowing like we could support each other. But it's just knowing that I could be able to support people's dreams and ideas and bring people to them to be able to see those ideas and visions come to life in the form of an experience.
All right, just for starters, how do we pronounce your name properly?
It's Justa Lujwangana.
Justa Lujwangana. Did I pronounce it right?
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Oh,
Yes.
there we go. I'm off to a great start. And where do you hail from originally?
From Tanzania, I grew up in multiple places, but predominantly like Tanzania, until the age of 12. But I went to school in Uganda, and then I also came to the US right after that. So I
Oh,
grew up everywhere, but originally
pretty
from
much.
Tanzania.
When you went to Uganda, how old were you when you were in Uganda?
I think I was between 5 or 6.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So you
Yeah,
pretty much did move around from a very, very young age.
right.
In secondary school and probably even maybe going into university, did you ever do like solo travels or any travels related to maybe academic?
No, not really.
Oh.
Not at all. Not in no high school. I was too busy playing sports. Knew nothing about travel. And plus, being an immigrant coming to the US, you have that time period of where you can't travel that much. So maybe
Yeah.
domestic travel, yes, but like internationally, no.
Okay. So when was your first international trip?
Um, it was actually heading back home to Tanzania. I think I came here when I was around 12,
Mm.
and my first international trip was when I was 18. And it was for my graduation gift from my mom.
Oh, were you excited?
Um, yes, excited, nervous, scared, everything all together in one, which is actually a very interesting experience. A majority of my clients also feel that way. Which for me, it was like, where am I going? Looking at the news, looking at like everything is like so scary and so like, and I left when I was young and not knowing like, oh my God, what will happen when I get there? Who's gonna pick us up? Where are we gonna sleep? What is gonna happen? So like all of that
Right.
was part of the anticipation. But then I was also excited at the same time because I was going back home. I was excited to see my grandmother, who was still alive at that period of time. My dad, like my whole family, I was just excited to go all the way to the village and being able to see them, speak the language, play some games with some people who think I don't speak all the other languages that we speak, which I did have fun with. But like it was just like that anticipation, nervousness, the unknowns, but also just revising back to my past experience. So like it was just a combination of everything all together, just boiling in
Right.
that I experienced. So before I arrived and everything was like very calm.
All of those that multitude of emotions and those feelings definitely happened before, and then once you got into being back home, it all kind of subsided and you were able to rest and relax and enjoy your time back home.
Exactly. So like whenever I get those people usually start like panicking before their trips, I'm
Mm.
like, yeah, I was there. I hear you, I understand you. And I always just reflect on those moments of like, oh my God, what is happening here? But it's such an exciting moment for me. So I'm grateful that I'm able to relive it through like some of the people who come to visit us. So yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And where'd you go? Did you do university? Did you spend any time in university? Where'd you go?
Yes. So I did university, one upstate New York, Morrisville State University, State College. And then I also went to Long Island University for my master's. I studied nutrition. And the reason why I've always wanted to go back home and give back in some form of way. So I thought the healthcare pathway was the way to go. I mean, it was mostly the closest it came to be offered, besides, of course, working for the UN and politics and all of that. Healthcare was the closest for me that I thought if I studied this, this would lead me to go back home.
Understand, understand. I only asked that because you started your company at a very, very early stage of your life here. So I've always wanted to know, okay, when did this all sort of begin? Did it begin after healthcare or a little bit in college?
It definitely, I wish it began like in earlier years of college, but it didn't, so I could run away from the debt, but it didn't. Collected a lot of debt that I pivoted to going into something else, which is so crazy. Um, but no, it came about, one of my uncles is within the travel industry. And once I finished college and like I could probably back it up with my mom always wanting us to find our way back home. And so, like all of us, it's five of us. My mom is a single mother of five. She brought us all to the US on different times. But like one of our goals was for us to be able to find our way back home. And for me as a middle child, I've always tried to, I'm a people pleaser, and my mom, I always want to please my mom in certain capacity. It makes me happy to find a way of like how do I go back home. So I did think healthcare was the way to do it, which a lot of people do it, but like it also has to do with your passion and all of that. Um, so while I was in school, actually after I finished college, I was working my 9 to 5 as a clinical dietitian, bustling and hustling and all crazy schedules and all of that. Working in environments where sometimes it was super stressful. We felt the bills kept on going up, but your salary was right here. So everything just
Yep,
drifted. So
happens.
just looking at that and always wanting to find time to go home, which you only get 2 weeks of vacation to go home. It just became like, okay, this lifestyle just became very interesting. Um, so I ended up, my uncle actually came to the US to visit us. And he has always had like a traveling company. So when he came to see us, he was like, hey, maybe you guys could also look into tourism. So yes, my uncle came to visit in the US. And he saw how we were doing, and my uncle was very supportive of my mom and always wanting my mom and her kids to do good or to also explore beyond. So he was like, if you guys come to Tanzania, I want to show you something. So when we made a trip, it was like 6 of us, my mom, and then also my two of my sister's friends, and then myself and my brother and sister. So we ended up going, and he had prepared like this whole safari trip for us. It was a 10-day trip, everything paid for. And he wanted us to just see what Tanzania was all about. In perspective, because we knew the regular Tanzania, because after 18, I kept on going back. And when we used to go back, it's like you go, you visit your family members, you go to the village, you visit your dad, and you do all the traditional stuff that we usually do. But we never saw the other side of Tanzania, which a lot of people, when they visited Tanzania, that's the things that they praised about, with the safaris, with climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, with the beautiful beaches of Zanzibar. But we as citizens of Tanzania, it's like you wherever that's in your backyard, sometimes you're very
Yeah.
you don't see it until you go far away, and then you're like, oh my God. So that's what he wanted to show us. So he took us on this safari trip. And we went from like I've never been on a safari before. Just seeing the animals, just seeing the beautiful lodges, just seeing the landscape, and just like going and going and going and just wondering like, is this the same country that we have been living this whole entire time? So that kind of like built on. And then when I got to Zanzibar, it's like a whole different country. It felt like you're in a whole different country. But we are still in Tanzania. So it was just like fascinating. When I came back, he was like, you have the information, whatever you guys want to do with this, I'm going to leave it up in your hands. And if you need any support or any encouragement, I'm always here to be able to guide you and encourage you and give you something. And that was a spark that I got. And when I came back, I was like, oh shoot, this is a lot of information. What do I do with this? But like that's where it started from. That's where the spark started from. That's where my curiosity started from. And it's just like from that day on, I just wanted to learn more and more. And that's how I found myself in this space. But it was that one time. And we don't, you know what? It's like it's one of those things where it's a very rare times where you have like somebody who will offer you that opportunity to
Yeah.
kind of show you the backgrounds of things. And ever since, I've been so grateful for that uncle of ours. He died probably like a month before I started bringing in my first clients. So when I went, I actually dropped off I was traveling with the clients, so like I dropped off the clients and then I went because he was already buried. I went to his grave and prayed, and then I just continued on the trip because I know that's exactly what he will want me to do. But like ever since, we've been going hard and just doing different things, and yeah.
Wow, no, I'm sorry for his passing, and he sounds like a very interesting and unique and exciting individual. Um, but he did kind of like hand down a massive blessing and opportunity to sort of think of this new business venture that you have. And the business venture that we're talking about is Curious on Tanzania, the the full underwriting entity of your idea. Um, I guess my next, and I also want to make one more point that you also stated earlier was you were used to seeing Tanzania from the family side, sort of the normal day to day, but you now wanted to see it from the visitor, from the customer, and also enjoy kind of this homeland that you're in. I feel the same way when I'm in New York. Pretty much a New Yorker, but I've never been to the World Trade Center and never seen the Empire State Building. Like I'm just like, oh, it's those things that everybody kind of does, but it never really happens. So I almost would have to take some time away from New York and then come back and say, oh yeah, let me do all of these I guess interesting things. So when you're starting this venture for yourself, you come back home, you realize you have this really awesome opportunity. Do you immediately jump right into it, or did you kind of wrestle with it with still kind of doing healthcare, still kind of working this almost like other life, but still drawn to this new opportunity that you kind of wanted to start? Did that kind of exist, or was it immediate? Jump right into it.
I wish everything was immediate. Um,
Yeah.
so I was coming from an angle of the unknown or not knowing. Just because somebody introduces you something does not mean now you're an expert.
That's true.
Um, so just having and I was actually coming back from Tanzania, and I had like a pamphlet like this big, which gave you the menu of like, this is how you do everything. So like I came back, and of course I went back to work. And I was just overwhelmed. It was just a lot of information. And it's like, okay, I tried it in the beginning, while I was still working my 9 to 5. I tried it. I tried reaching out to people and telling people, oh yeah, Tanzania, you need to come see, you need to go on a safari, you need to see this, you need to see that. And everybody was like, okay, so what else? Like, what's next? Like, who are you to tell me where I should be spending my money? And that is a luxury thing. It's not a necessity. This is talking about almost like 10 years ago, where travel, especially within the African American space
Yeah.
or within people of color, it was not traveling to Africa. It was not as dominant as when it comes to like, let me say, like white Americans, where like middle class white Americans having enough setting a fund where they could be able to say, okay, I want to spend this time in this particular place. That for my generation, that was not a norm. And for me to be speaking to my people, letting them know, come to Tanzania and spend this amount of money. It's like, I have bills to pay, I have student loans, I have this. So it was not a norm. And that's what I actually came to realize after trying it out like once or twice and just trying to get people to be able to come. It just like seemed like, okay, like that's all the information. Like you haven't convinced me enough. Like what else? What do I need to know more? So I focused on that needing to know more and wanting to understand their whys, and why is my why for wanting them to come and see this particular beautiful country. So I did take time. I did take time to educate myself. One of the instances, I was working in Brooklyn. I would sometimes, I don't like saying this, but I did it. I'll go to work between like, my schedule is usually like 9 to 5. I ended up changing my schedule to like 6 to 2 because I had the convenience as a dietitian. Either you could work early morning or you could work out your schedule, however. But like I will make sure by 1 o'clock I'm out of work because like I have my 1 hour lunch. I would take it to go. And then the evening I'll be at NYU. NYU had this new entrepreneurship course that was happening. So I ended up kind of like finding a way to get in. The first time I got there, they asked us for IDs. You either had to be aluminum, you had to be a current student, or you had to be a faculty member. So I think I was one of them in between, but like I never presented my ID. And I ended up getting into the class. The course was almost like a 7-week course. But it was just it was in a lab. It was in a particular class where you had to do all the paperwork and everything. It was just and the extra entrepreneurship course that was being offered to this group of people. So I ended up attending the course and understanding the whole thing of what it means to be an entrepreneur, and like the different levels on how you start your business, to the finance area, to like everything, like the whole spectrum, even up to pivoting your business and all of that. So like I just got like the solid knowledge of what a business is all about. But again, it was too much information. I ended up getting like confused, too much information, but it was some good knowledge that I got from there. But for almost like 7 weeks, I was making sure I leave work right on a certain time. I go to the school, find a way to get in, get my education at every cost. And then just be able to come back home, and between 7 to like 10 o'clock at night, I would just dive in again, do my go do research, find out about different expos, where they're happening, everything about travel. I'll do my best to find out, and attend those travel conferences, anything that's related about travel, about business. I will make sure I am there. I'm attending, I'm finding out the knowledge. Networking, I was a person who I was shy when I was a kid. So like I never spoke a lot. So when it came to networking, I was like, I used to go to like Wall Street. And there was a couple meetings, after work meetings that I used to go to, not knowing anybody, but like it's just like showing up and just like it's different people. So there was a time where I just walked out because I was so nervous. I was so scared. I was like, nobody would speak to me. And then this guy out of nowhere, he's like, where are you going? I was like, oh my God. I was like, you're the person that you're gonna connect me to everybody. And they were starting out a new company, which is now like a multi-million-dollar company called Skift.
Yeah.
Skift. And Skift is it's what is it? It's all about
Like
travel.
travel journal, like journalism,
Yes,
like
exactly.
news publication.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I was lucky to meet him, and they ended up inviting me to one of their sessions, and I ended up volunteering. So like that was cool to volunteer at one of their the summits that they were having in New York.
Yeah.
The first summit that they had in New York, I ended up volunteering, and I met like really great people there, including a co-working space, which was a travel related co-working space called Voyager. And then from there, I got connected and connected, and like, oh, like Voyager was a space for travel related entrepreneurs, all the way from like tech to like, for me, I was just coming in and highlighting Tanzania as much as possible. And then they would teach me a lot of things, or they would teach me all the technology that I needed to use to be able to make my dream come true. So those are the little things
Yeah.
that kind of like I ended up getting. And then meanwhile, while I'm sharing my messages and I'm reading also books, like one of the books that I read was on storytelling. How do you tell your story? I think it was story branding. I forgot who's the author, but story branding was really cool. And then I ended up reading another book on profit first, just like focusing on making sure you pay yourself first before you do everything else. But like there was a lot of things because I was in all of these networks that helped me to be able to build from there. So that's how I kind of like got comfortable in the space.
Yeah, it's like all these little we say little, but it's these multiple baby steps that kind of help form this growing venture that you did. And being connected in New York, using your your network, going to the entrepreneurial class, making sure that you sort of take that leap of faith and still, even though you feel the fear, being in Wall Street, being kind of, in the travel spaces, even though it may feel large, it is kind of small compared
Right.
to downtown. Um, these are all like, very massive jumps that, most won't ever do, but you're pioneering this. While you were kind of going through this growing period of Curious on Tanzania, were there any other Tanzania or African based companies kind of building at the same time, or were you kind of the solo kind of soloing it?
I think I was. I was mostly kind of like soloing it out.
Uh,
I mean, there are multiple Tanzanian companies out there. In the US, a lot of companies, the first front of it, because of course, with travel, travel has a lot of touch points.
yeah,
So like when you focus on the first touch point, which is like the first touch point, which is the most critical touch point, actually, acquiring of the client. And that is, for me, I feel like that is done here in the US, where, of course, the client is. That space is not filled out as much when it comes to Tanzanians compared to the operations on the ground. So for me, being on this side, it serves me, it still serves me as an advantage. But it is a crazy field where you have to know you have to really, really know who is your client.
yeah,
So and then how do you speak to them? So like that's one of the challenges or the things that I ended up finding out, being in a space where predominantly the people who travel are, and it's also people do look at color and who's
yeah,
taking them in
yeah,
the travel industry. So like that is something else also, just knowing how do you tackle it or who do you speak to,
right.
that I found it's an interesting challenge. So yeah.
So this is a very interesting challenge. You did mention the importance of learning about storytelling and sort of how to capture, I guess, like the mission behind the company. Um, why Tanzania? Why is Tanzania sort of the should be this focus point, or the highlight, as opposed to, maybe these other glamorous locations that people could consider?
My mom always told us like to take advantage of what you have first. So that's what I've always focused in. And it's just like just working from almost like zero to kind of like building from there to going up. All I had is just Tanzania being my home country. The connections I had, especially with my uncle being the backbone of like our company, or his company being the backbone of ours. But also my drive and knowing I don't like, of course, it took it took some money to be able to get it going, but I did not need to go ask, let me say, for example, investors and all of that. So it was something that could be done within just acquiring the knowledge behind it.
I like that. It was by not having sort of these additional maybe complications involved, it was fairly straightforward. Once you have
Right.
the knowledge you already had, of course, the interest in Tanzania, you already had like this sort of, purpose for Tanzania that you just needed sort of the knowledge and just sort of the runway, and you were pretty much off.
Right, right.
Oh.
Definitely. And it's home. I can't like every time I want it. My goal was always to go back home. So if I could go back home and work,
Yeah.
yes, and be of a service. Because the other thing is like a lot of like is like just supporting like our economy, but also when you go back home, you have a community that also kind of like looks up to you, and just like knowing like we could support each other. It just creates like for me, just my standard of life has been added on compared to if I was just working for somebody else. But it's just knowing that I could be able to support people's dreams and ideas, and bring people to them to be able to see those ideas and visions come to life in the form of an experience.
Wonderfully put. So, do you plan on expanding Curious on Tanzania? Is there going to be a Curious on Ghana or Curious on South
Um,
Africa? Where
so I've been to
Botswana? Where
Ghana
you
though.
going?
I was in Ghana probably like 2 months ago. I love Ghana. Ghana's history is amazing. And I have we have now built like kind of like alliances with my fellow travel experts. So if people are looking to go to Ghana, we do have our partners who will be able to take them to Ghana. So Curious in Tanzania, we just don't only focus on Tanzania now. We do focus on like the whole of East Africa and Southern Africa. But like when it comes to West Africa, we do make the recommendations to the proper people because we are connected. Our travel community is bigger now, that we could be able to connect people in those manners. So that's a form of an expansion, you could say.
Got you. Form of expansion. Okay, so if I wanted to, go to Botswana, I can work or liaison with Curious on Tanzania and see, how do I experience Botswana as well.
Exactly, yes, yes.
Beautiful.
Which one of the things that makes us unique is the way we curate the itinerary.
Mhm.
It's that and that's a lot of people usually are like, yeah, I want you to do like Ghana or like you said, Botswana for me because I like the model of how you put together this experience and how we were able to go through it. So that's I guess that could be like our secret ingredients of how we help people to experience it. But it's also because for me, a lot of our clients are like, let me say, for example, they're like Americans.
Mhm.
And we have lived the American lifestyle. So we know like some of the pain points, some of the joys, and like where they're looking to kind of like learn and just like there's a certain fulfillment that we when you go on vacation, especially when you come to Africa, it's like there's certain things that we know as a person who has lived in New York and I've hustled in New York, but then also I'm a Tanzanian and I understand like how the world in Tanzania works or in Africa. There's that little touch point that we always know how to hit it, and or majority of the people who come, they're like, "Oh my God, how did you know?" I was like, "Because I'm like two in one."
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of see both sides of the aisle, so it makes for a
Right.
really great recipe that you can put together.
Right, right. Just even conversation. Like some people just want to talk and just like you just have to know, but you have to be relatable. You have to know what is happening in both places to be able uh, to have a great conversation. So somebody leaves that like, oh, I've been heard,
Mhm.
which is very important.
Wow, okay. So I know you're big on Tanzania, so if I were to travel to Tanzania, what are the three things I should experience?
The three things I would say the Serengeti with the air balloon safari.
Okay.
I would say Dar es Salaam with its nightlife.
Nice.
I would say Zanzibar,
That's definitely
with the yacht experience, like a
uh,
boat yacht or
catamaran.
like a
Got
dhow boat experience. Those, yes, definitely.
So the hot air balloon over the safari, the nightlife, and then of course Zanzibar. Taking a nice little drink on the catamaran or yacht, living
Exactly,
the
yes.
do the luxurious life. You kind of did a nice, and just right there, it was a beautiful combination. You had like this exploration adventure. Then you have like this nightlife to experience kind of more culture, and then you get to kind of rest and relax, on the
Definitely.
beach.
Yes, definitely. And of course, food is involved in there. My chefs will be able to cook you a storm. It's a lot that will happen within those three locations. That will be a surprise to everyone.
Okay. And what would be the recommend like most recommended dish if I were to visit or if anybody were to visit, not just me.
So, oh my God, our food has this, it depends on what tribe. It has a
Okay.
different flavors, but like our food is mostly influenced by Indian cuisine. Or you could say the coastal food is influenced by Indian cuisine.
Okay.
So a lot of people usually like pilau, which is like a spiced rice. But like a goat pilau, if you're a meat eater, a goat pilau is like really good. I will go to the Wachaga tribe and do mtori soup, which is the mtori soup is a banana soup, and they add like little pieces of meat, or sometimes you don't. But like that banana soup is to die for. Um, and of course, tea, like a tea masala, if you're a tea drinker or like the spice teas while you're in Zanzibar, overlooking the water. I think in the evening time or when the sun is setting or like late in the evening, it's a really good time to be able to have tea. And there are so much tea drinkers because, of course, they're Muslim. So like they don't drink much or they don't drink. So tea is like everything
Geez,
while you're there. Yeah.
I can't wait. Now I'm really excited to actually book a flight to Tanzania. I'm ready to do it. The food sounds definitely satisfying, and of course, the trip will be memorable. I know you are a very busy individual, so before we get you off, we ask these pay me in plane tickets quirky questions to see where you sit on the pay me in plane ticket spectrum. You ready?
Okay.
All right.
Mhm.
So, if you were paid in plane tickets, which airline are you choosing?
Qatar.
There you go. Any particular reason why?
I'm a gold member of Qatar,
Oh,
so I get more points.
that's right. You're like, it's the points. That's it. You're stuck with them. That's all running. And do they fly? Well, I'm sure they have to go to Dubai, but there's no direct to Tanzania. It's
No, majority of the airlines have to fly into their home countries first, and then they fly into the destination they're going to. So Qatar will fly into Doha,
duh.
and then from Doha, 5 hours into Tanzania.
Perfect. Okay. Uh, when you are traveling, Airbnb or hotel?
Depends what kind of Airbnb. I usually do both.
Uh,
Yeah, I usually do both. I can't, depending where I am, I would do, if I'm in the US, Airbnb is definitely right. If I'm in Tanzania, I would definitely have to look how the Airbnb looks like. Or I would do like a luxury hotel.
okay. Perfect. Perfect. When you're traveling, do you use a travel debit card or any particular travel credit card that you use to get your points and miles?
Points, points, points.
So-
Um, when I'm traveling, like within particular places where I could be able to get points, definitely. I use my points, but when I'm in Tanzania, cash is king. Because I also want to help like the local economy. So like I will use my cash when I could.
okay. So and does Qatar have their own like credit card for somebody to earn points or on it or no?
I think yes, I think they do. But then I also have a one of the banks here.
Yeah,
I have their card that I use.
that you use. Okay.
Yeah.
We talked about all the great things about traveling to Tanzania, but do you have any traveling pet peeves?
I like to be comfortable. Comfort is everything.
Uh,
Of course, planning ahead and comfort is everything. So like if I get like I have a friend of mine who's always late to catch their flight. So I don't like I just cringe. I'm like, I arrive at the airport 3 hours, 4 hours early. I have my laptop at work. I do everything there. She arrives like super late. Sometimes she misses flights. So I'm like, oh, I can't. So those that's mostly it.
I'm with you on that one. Arrive early is best. I can't do the late and or scurrying sort of lifestyle.
Right.
When you're traveling, is it a carry-on or a check bag?
Depending where I'm going. When I'm going to Tanzania now, because I'm a gold member, I have like 4 pieces. So my
Oh
whole family calls for things. Oh, bring me this, bring me that, bring me that, bring me seasoning, bring me this, bring me that. So end of the day, all my suitcases are filled up, but I don't have to pay extra for it, so I'm good. But when I'm in the US, you have to pay for everything. So like either a book bag or a carry-on.
yeah.
Keep it
Makes
simple.
sense. I like the split. I like the way you kind of like split it out.
Right,
Um,
right.
you are a gold member, so I'm very sure you get to pick your own seat on the plane. Are you sitting in the window, aisle, or middle seat? Dare I say?
I am like I'm tall, so I prefer aisle seat. So like I usually do aisle seat. I don't like window because I don't like to be
Crunch.
closed in, and I move around a lot on the plane. Yeah.
And you're on those long flights, so
Right,
definitely.
right. The long flights, no, I can't. I just need my aisle seat and I can move anytime I want, stretch, dance, do whatever. It's everything happens on that, especially the flight to Tanzania. Everything happens on that flight to Tanzania.
This next question, I feel like you probably already, I think you probably already live it. So we ask this question, you say, if you had to travel to one location for the rest of your life, where would it be? And I'm gonna guess it's Tanzania. Shot in the dark.
Definitely. And I do it already.
I know, I
I
know.
go back and forth already. Oh man, home is beautiful. And when you set up yourself in a way, I mean, everywhere is beautiful as long as you find a way to be able to make other people happy in some form by helping them find their creative ways. So for me, like I love it there because of the people and how people make me feel or how I make people feel. So that's why I would say Tanzania because of that energy.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, no, and I can agree with that sort of how home is supposed to make you feel. And so, yeah, I like that. I like that. The very last question is, where are you traveling to next? And I don't think I'll be shocked by this answer.
Okay, so I am going to Johannesburg, South Africa. Then I will be in Zambia. From Zambia, I will be in Zimbabwe. From Zimbabwe, I will be in Tanzania. So by June 10th, I'll be in Tanzania.
All right, yes, it's a road to Tanzania, but definitely
Right.
we'll set up Johannesburg. That's the answer. As this,
I'm working also. So like, because I have clients coming in from South Africa and they're making their way all the way to Tanzania. So that's the journey that they're taking. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to be doing it during my birthday time. So yeah.
okay, perfect. Well, then, happy birthday. But
Thank
also, I
you.
know like the a lot of the African travel expos are happening around this season. So yeah,
Right.
yeah. So it makes sense.
Right.
Smart
Yep.
business move. Well, Justa, I am very thankful for you jumping on this podcast, really sharing your experience, your life, your journey as you're building your company, as the company still is growing and continuing to grow. I appreciate you hopping on and just excited to see kind of what is the next iteration of Curious on Tanzania and to see the lifespan of it just extend even further with your leadership.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
No, no worries, no worries.